Hello everyone, I hope you're all doing very good. Well, today in the morning, as usual, I was going through my mail. And I got a mail from one of my friends. I got a mail from one of my friends. I'm not so sure. Do I say one of my friend or do I say one of my friends? I'm not so sure anymore. Well, we all have this problem when we are using phrases like one of, a few of, some of, most of, and sometimes none of or all of. Even the most learned English speakers, in fact, if you are someone who speaks English daily, you may still have a problem with the correct use of these phrases. So therefore, today's lesson is going to help you understand how to use these phrases correctly.
Subscribe and press the bell icon to receive notifications. Don't miss any new lessons.
Now, we're going to divide the nouns into countable nouns and uncountable nouns, because the use of these phrases might differ in case of a countable noun, and the use of these phrases might differ in the case of an uncountable noun. Okay, let's see how. Okay, now, countable nouns, for those of you who do not know, are nouns which can be quantified. You can actually divide them into individual units. Right? So you have one pen, but you can have 10 pens. You can quantify a pen. You can divide this into individual units. That's a countable noun. Now, if I'm going to use one of with a countable noun, how is my sentence structure going to be? Now, a lot of students make a lot of mistakes, of course, because they're learning, right? Suppose if I'm going to talk about the countable noun, which is book. Now, if I say one of my books is missing. Is that right? What do you think? I've got one of my books is missing. Now, a lot of people make a very common mistake of just saying one of my book is missing. But the correct way of actually writing this sentence is using the plural form of the word book, which is books. Now, I'll tell you why people make this mistake. Because they think that if the word is a plural, you can't have an is followed by a plural noun, because we're always taught that an is comes with a singular noun and an are comes with a plural noun, right? I understand that. However, when you're talking about one of, you are going to use the word books and you are going to follow that noun, the plural noun, with an is, because the is used because one is singular. So I may have 10 books, I may have 20 books, I may have 100 books, but only one singular, only one of my various books that I may have is missing. So you will never say one of my friend is calling me. You will say one of my friends is calling me, because you have many friends, but you're talking about just one friend, and therefore, even though you have a friends, you will always follow that with an is. Okay? Now, how about using the other expressions or the other words like a few of? A few of my, should I say books again? Yes, you're going to say books. And would I say an is or an are? I will say an are because we're talking about a few of. So a few could be 3 books, it could be 4 books, it could be 10 books. It could be any number, right? It's more than one, so it's plural. So therefore you will say a few of my books, okay, are missing. What about some of? Again, you would say some of my books are missing. The same as above, okay? And what about the other 3 expressions, which is most of, none of, and all of? Well, exactly the same. Most of refers to many, which is again plural. So you will always say most of my books are missing. What about none of? Again, you would use the plural. None refers to various books. It could be 2 or more. So none of my books, so you have various books and none of them are missing. And of course, the last syllable, the last expression is obvious. When I talk about all of, I'm talking about all my books, I'm talking about a huge quantity, and therefore the same rule applies wherein I say all of my books are missing. As you can see, only when using one of, I will have the is followed by the plural noun, because is used because of the one which is singular. But in all other cases, you will always use the plural noun followed with an are. Okay? Now, this was something that we followed when we were talking about countable nouns, nouns that we can quantify or divide into individual units. What about uncountable nouns? Well, what are uncountable nouns? Nouns that you cannot quantify. Okay, for example, water. You can't quantify water. Water is a liquid. It's in a liquid state. You can't have 1 water or 4 waters. You just have water, right? I drank some water. You don't have lots. You don't have 3 waters. Or rice. Again, you don't have 3 rice or 50 rice. You have some or a lot of rice, right? So uncountable nouns are nouns that you can't quantify. Okay, now if I have to use these expressions in an uncountable noun, how do I use it? All right, so if I have to say one of, can I use one of in any kind of uncountable noun? No, I can't, because as I've already mentioned to you, we cannot quantify water or rice. So I can't say one of the water or one of the rice. It's just water or rice. So one of is an expression that you will never use when you are talking about an uncountable noun. Okay? What about few of? Again, this expression cannot be used when you are talking about an uncountable noun. You can't talk about a few of water, a few of rice. It does not sound right, right? How about some of? Well, if I have some of, yes, I could use some of with an uncountable noun. I could say some of the water is dirty. Now, please note that when it comes to an uncountable noun, you will only use is, because an uncountable noun is always singular. You will never have an S at the end of any noun which is uncountable. And if you remember this, you will always end up speaking perfect English. So an uncountable noun is always singular, which is why you always use only an is after an uncountable noun. So you can say some of the water is dirty, right? How about using most of? Let's have a look. Okay, most of his advice is good. Again, you can use most of with an uncountable noun, which is advice, which does not have an S at the end of it because it's always singular. And you can follow that with an is because it is singular. Okay? Also, when you use the expression none of, you could say none of this information. Information is an uncountable noun which is always singular, and therefore we're going to follow that with an is. So we will say none of this information is true. Okay, you can't say none of this informations are true because it's again an uncountable noun which is always singular. And the last expression says all of. Can we use all of with an uncountable noun? Yes, we can. We can say all of the rice is stale. Again, an uncountable noun followed by an is. So you can see for yourself how you can use all these expressions, which is one of, a few of, some of, most of, none of, and all of, with a countable noun. However, you cannot use one of and a few of with an uncountable noun. You can use them with all the others. But as far as the grammatical rule is concerned, you need to know where you've got to use an is and where you've got to use an are. Well, that's it from me on this lesson. Until then, this is me saying